Although the exact origin of this image is uncertain, records indicate it was taken in the United States around the mid-20th century as part of an art installation, political protest, or experimental performance. This is a post-mortem photo, a common practice in the 19th century. The parents are dead, carefully positioned by invisible supports, and the child, alive, was included in the final farewell portrait. It was a macabre and solemn way to eternalize loved ones. It looks like a ghost bride drifting through an abandoned village, but this frightening figure was real. A woman trying to protect herself from the Spanish flu with improvised clothing while the world died silently around her. This photo, taken during the Second World War, shows two children looking up at the sky fearing an air raid. At the time, it was common for planes to drop bombs during the Blitz campaign, causing many children to be taken to rural areas in evacuation programs. The photo reveals a dark corridor leading to two rooms, with an enigmatic figure appearing in the background. Its subtle yet disturbing presence reinforces the sinister atmosphere and provokes a sense of unease in those who observe the image. This photograph was taken during the 1950s in the United States, in the midst of the nuclear paranoia era. It shows a formal meeting where all the men, well-dressed, are wearing gas masks while calmly dining. In 1901, French police found a prisoner weighing 55 pounds named Blanche Monnier, depicted here shortly after her discovery. The discovery occurred in the city of Poitiers, where Blanche Monnier had been kept in solitary confinement for 25 years. This unsettling image is one of the most famous records of the so-called ectoplasm, a substance that supposedly emanated from the bodies of mediums during spiritualist sessions in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Dozens of doll heads hanging and covered in a melted, sticky material. What looks like a macabre ritual is, in fact, a real scene from an old doll factory in 1940 during the process of dipping in celluloid for molding and finishing. In 1959, a nursing team captured an intriguing photo on a viewing monitor where a shadowy figure seemed to hover over the patient, who died a few hours later. In a church in Worstead, Diane Berthelot was photographed while praying during the summer of 1984. Months later, upon revisiting the photos, the family noticed the presence of a supernatural white figure behind her. This image looks like something out of a ritualistic nightmare. Figures covered in long dark robes and pointed hoods slowly march in a stone courtyard. But in reality, it is a traditional religious procession of Holy Week in Spain in the 20th century. These processions were organized by religious brotherhoods known as cofradías. Participants wear long tunics and pointed hoods called capirotes as a form of penance and anonymity before God. In the Allegheny National Forest, Pennsylvania, an animal surveillance camera was triggered by a deer but recorded something unexpected, a spectral figure with a screaming expression. The mystery around the location only deepened its eerie reputation. While gathered for a family dinner, the Coopers were surprised by a macabre event. A body fell from the ceiling at the exact moment the photo was taken. Mannequins set up in the Nevada desert for nuclear tests. During the 1950s, the American government conducted multiple tests as part of Operation Teapot, which aimed to better understand the effectiveness and effects of nuclear weapons. The photograph known as the Brown Lady, recorded in the 1930s, displays the spirit of Lady Dorothy Townsend descending the stairs of Rainham Hall in England. The image is considered one of the most emblematic in the paranormal world. One of the most brutal torture devices in history, the feared medieval interrogation chair, also known as the Inquisition chair. Covered with hundreds of sharp iron spikes on the seat, backrest, arms, and leg supports, it was used in Europe between the 14th and 18th centuries to extract confessions. Melissa Lourdes Lopez posing for a photo just seconds before being shot at a memorial for a victim of gun violence. This Victorian portrait carries a chilling story. The young girl is said to have died a few days after the photograph was taken. Since then, many claim that her gaze seems to follow those who stare at the image for too long, as if something in her is still alive. This photograph captures a baseball team formed by prisoners in the early 1910s whose executions were postponed under one peculiar condition, as long as they kept winning games. This photo was taken around the 1930s and shows a children's audience during a promotional screening. Each child received a paper mask with Mickey Mouse's face. What was meant to be marketing turned, decades later, into one of the most unsettling portraits ever made. The image displays the mask used by Edward Paynell, the Beast of Jersey, who sowed terror in the Channel of Jersey during the 1960s. He attacked and assaulted at least 13 victims, beating and strangling them before escaping. An original plague doctor mask from the 16th century, created to protect doctors during plague outbreaks. The distinctive beak shape was designed to contain aromatic substances, which served as a defense against the disease's odor. Stefan Bobrowski, better known as Lionel the Lion-Faced Boy, a real and striking figure of 20th century freak shows. Lionel was born in 1890 and suffered from congenital hypertrichosis, a rare genetic condition that causes hair to grow all over the body, including the face. An old Halloween costume, composed of a simple children's dress combined with a frightening skull-shaped mask with horns. These simple costumes were typical of the early 20th century and created a disturbing visual effect. In the early 20th century, Montague Cooper, a furniture store owner, took a photo of his products, but something curious drew attention. An enigmatic hand appeared in the image. Some believe it could be the hand of the former owner. In the image, we see a woman in a stiff pose, dressed in Victorian attire and positioned on a round base with a support on her back, exactly like a display doll. But what is shocking is that she is alive, with her body upright and motionless as if she had been sculpted. The Serbian dancer is an urban legend that gained popularity on TikTok, portraying a woman dressed in folk attire, dancing at night, wielding a knife. According to the story, anyone who observes her or crosses her path is pursued and attacked by her. A scene of a child playing becomes unsettling when, in the background, a humanoid figure is seen crawling. The apparent interaction between the creature and the child led to the photograph being considered cursed. Although it looks like a charming country house in upstate New York, the image actually shows the Trudeau Sanatorium, dedicated to the treatment of tuberculosis. Members of the Manson family gathered at Spahn Ranch on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Originally used as a set for Western films, the place became infamous after the brutal murders committed by them in August 1969, including the killing of actress Sharon Tate. A child-sized gas mask with a design inspired by Mickey Mouse, created in the United States in 1942 during the Second World War. During those years, American families were encouraged to keep gas masks available for all members as a preventive measure against possible chemical attacks. Two well-dressed people amidst the snow, surrounded by horse heads emerging from the white ground. The scene is real, but does not depict a tragedy. The heads are bronze sculptures installed as part of an outdoor artwork known as the Monument of the Drowned Horses. In the photo is John Wayne Gacy, also known as the Killer Clown, dressed as his alter ego, Pogo the Clown, which he used to entertain parties and visit hospitals. Behind the colorful makeup and forced smile, Gacy hid a monstrous side. Between 1972 and 1978, he abused and murdered 33 young men, burying many of them in the basement of his own home. In May of 1999, Candace Kaiser, 19 years old, and David Keller, 20 years old, were murdered in their home in Alabama. The couple's 2.5-year-old daughter sat next to the bodies for 16 hours. To this day, the murders remain unsolved. The man portrayed is Guillaume Benjamin de Boulogne, a French neurologist who pioneered the study of facial physiology. Duchenne used facial electrical stimulation to force certain muscles to contract, provoking expressions like joy, fear, or pain, all in the name of science. This is the porcupine suit used by British colonial hunters and explorers in India in the late 19th century. The outfit was designed to protect the wearer from attacks by fierce animals, with the cruel logic that any attacking creature would be injured or killed by the spikes. In 1980, Sister Margaret Ann Paul, 71 years old, was found murdered in a chapel in Toledo. She had been strangled, assaulted, stabbed more than 30 times, and her body was placed ritualistically in front of the altar, with her arms crossed over her chest. This is one of the last photos of Bonnie Haim before her disappearance in 1993. At the time, her 3-year-old son said that his father had killed her, but there was no evidence to confirm it. 20 years later, the son, now an adult, found his mother's remains buried in the backyard while working on gardening. The photo is of a popular magic trick from the 1930s called the Headless Woman, exhibited at fairs and sideshows. The trick used mirrors, lighting, and strategic positioning to create the illusion that the woman's head had been removed, leaving the body alive, still, and in motion. During a heat wave in London in 1929, 2 wax mannequins began to melt, resulting in a grotesque and disturbing scene. The deformed figures evoke an unsettling image: an American soldier holding a jungle centipede during the Vietnam War. The jungles of Vietnam, dense and impenetrable, were home to creatures that seemed straight out of a nightmare. Max Schreck is seen relaxing backstage during the filming of Nosferatu. His striking portrayal of the vampire Count Orlok was so convincing that it fueled rumors that he was a real vampire, enhancing the enigmatic aura surrounding the film. A real collection of glass eyes, meticulously organized in individual compartments like a kind of visual catalog of darkness. These eyes were used for ocular prosthetics, especially between the 19th and 20th centuries, with many made by hand. The Mothman, an enigmatic creature described as a winged being with a moth-like appearance, is often associated with omens of tragedy. Its last reported sighting occurred on September 13, 2003, at the Silver Bridge, which collapsed shortly after, killing 46 people. This image is of a practice called masking parties, which was relatively common in Europe and the United States at the end of the 19th century. The masks were made of papier-mâché, wax, or leather, and were used in carnivals, social satires, or even private rituals and secret societies. This old image at first glance looks like a typical post-mortem photograph. However, there is a frightening and inexplicable element that immediately draws attention. A translucent, glowing figure appears in the center of the image, seemingly emerging from the body in the coffin. This bizarre and real image is of Lucia Zarate, a 19th century circus performer who suffered from a rare condition called primordial dwarfism, and was known as the smallest adult woman in the world. At only 17 inches tall and just over 4 pounds, she was exhibited as an attraction at fairs and circuses, often posed and supported to make her appear like an animated toy. Discovered by a curator of the National Media Museum in an antique bookstore, this photograph was taken by the supposed medium William Hope and became known as a spirit photograph. Dated to the early 1900s, they show spectral, nebulous figures next to living people. Many of these apparitions were recognized by clients as deceased relatives or friends, reinforcing the belief that they were witnessing concrete evidence of contact with the world of the dead. These images became a symbol of the era's fascination with spiritualism. This bizarre image shows a group of women dressed in dark clothes decorated with mathematical symbols, staging what appears to be a dark ritual. The scene was recorded around the early 20th century, supposedly during a university theatrical performance about mathematics. The image shows a coconut crab, the largest terrestrial invertebrate in the world, climbing onto a trash can. With a span of up to 3 feet and a weight of 9 pounds, its imposing appearance astonishes and frightens, especially when it appears in urban environments. A young Russian man was walking at night toward a party when, while crossing an industrial area, he noticed something unsettling. A still figure, apparently human, standing in the middle of the path with a bag on its head. The scene was strange and silent, and he was sure he was witnessing something disturbing. After the death of Mr. Convermere, a photographer captured an image of his favorite chair. In the photograph, a mysterious silhouette appears to be sitting on it, resembling the deceased. Since then, the chair has been considered cursed. A knife thrower performing his act in 1940, with a boy as the target. Circus performers often risk their lives, and those of others, with daring numbers that combine skill and tension to captivate the audience. A wall with a phrase written in a tone of despair and madness: "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself." The photo is real and is part of the scene of a true crime that occurred in 1945 in the United States. It was recorded during the investigation of William Hirons, known as the Lipstick Killer, who left this desperate message written with lipstick on the wall of one of his victims' apartments. A visibly uncomfortable boy held by 2 masked figures with demonic appearances. Although it looks like a scene of kidnapping or a macabre ritual, it is an ancient European tradition linked to the folklore of Krampus, the anti-Santa Claus, who punished naughty children in alpine regions. Zombie Road in Missouri is famous for reports of strange sounds and apparitions. In 1959, photos taken near a river revealed mysterious silhouettes that cast no reflections in the water. Since the area was deserted at the time, the case puzzled investigators and strengthened the mysterious aura surrounding the region. Michael Rockefeller, son of the Vice President of the United States, shortly before being cannibalized by the Asmat tribe in Papua New Guinea during the 1960s. He disappeared while traveling through the region, and it is believed that the Asmat, known for their cannibalistic rituals, killed and consumed him. Ed Gein being escorted by police officers, leaving his rural home shortly after being detained. Gein was initially investigated for the disappearance of a local store owner, but further inquiries revealed that he had exhumed bodies from local cemeteries and used parts of the corpses to create macabre artifacts. After being diagnosed with schizophrenia, Ed Gein's sentence was indefinite psychiatric hospitalization, where he remained for the rest of his life under mental health treatment. During the First World War, Russian soldiers found a rare moment to relieve the stress and anguish of combat by participating in an improvised performance. Dressed in peculiar and frightening costumes, these soldiers created an atmosphere that was both macabre and comic. The photo of the excavations in Gary Ridgway's backyard after his arrest in November 2001 documents one of the most intense moments in the Green River Killer investigation. Ridgway, who confessed to 48 murders, is suspected of having committed even more crimes. In the photo, 2 children appear tied to a heater in a psychiatric asylum in Lebanon in 1982. The image reveals the harsh reality of institutions marked by a lack of resources and care, where vulnerable patients were subjected to inhumane restraints due to structural deficiencies. What you see in this disturbing image are two tsansas, or shrunken heads, a true and historically recorded ritual practice among the Shuar, Achuar, and other indigenous groups of Ecuador and Peru. This disturbing sculpture was found in the middle of a trail in the Forest of St. Helens, in England. The object features a human head with an expression of pain on top, an anatomical figure sculpted on its body, including hands, a vagina, and what appears to be a frog over a brick pattern. This frightening creature truly exists and lives in the depths of the oceans. What you are seeing is a specimen of the gulper eel, a deep-sea fish rarely seen outside its habitat thousands of meters deep. This image may look like something out of a zombie movie, with rotting fingers emerging from the earth. But what you are seeing is completely real. It is a fungus known as dead man's fingers, which grows on decaying logs and soil rich in organic matter. The eruption of Mount Sakurajima in 1914 released a dense cloud of ash over the city. Considered the most intense volcanic eruption in Japan during the 20th century, it significantly altered the local geography. Russian fisherman Roman Fedortsov captured a rare frilled shark considered a living fossil due to its primitive appearance and lack of evolutionary changes over 80 million years. With about 300 sharp teeth, this predatory species feeds on squid and even other sharks. The megamouth shark, a rare species discovered in 1976, can reach up to 18 feet in length and weigh about 2,500 pounds. One specimen was captured in 2016, about 3 miles off the coast of Port Awais, Japan, highlighting its impressive mouth 4 feet wide. A real plant, commonly called snapdragon. The macabre detail only appears when the flower dies and dries. The seed capsules take the shape of small skulls with open mouths, as if screaming in terror. The image displays the set of tools used by Ted Bundy, containing ropes, gloves, a mask, a drill, and plastic bags. These objects were discovered in his car at the time of his arrest, revealing part of the method of the notorious serial killer. This rare and disturbing image shows a biorobot, as were called the workers who performed impossible tasks during the Chernobyl disaster in 1986. The photo was taken inside Reactor 4, in what remained of the nuclear plant after the explosion. It was necessary to wear a special anti-radiation suit and wield a tool for removing irradiated graphite, one of the most dangerous materials left behind by the explosion. The image presents an impressive close-up of the face of a wolf spider, highlighting its large eyes and the fine hairs covering its body. This species is known for its excellent vision and solitary hunting. The image shows one of the most iconic moments of the Holocaust, a Jewish boy with his hands raised, being removed from the Warsaw Ghetto in 1943 by an armed SS German soldier. This photograph became one of the most recognized records of the atrocities committed against Jews during the Second World War. The sheriff of Leon County presenting the indictment against Ted Bundy in relation to the attacks at the Chi Omega sorority, with Bundy laughing upon hearing the documents. Later, Ted Bundy confessed to murdering 30 women across 7 states. The last image of Australian cricketer Philip Hughes after being struck in the neck by a ball that ruptured his vertebral artery. He was only 25 years old. One of the participants of the Stanford Prison Experiment, conducted in 1971, appears with a paper bag over his head, symbolizing the dehumanization of prisoners. The study revealed how power can profoundly influence human psychology. In 1962, Audrey Backerberg, 20 years old, disappeared from her home in Reedsburg, Wisconsin. Married and mother of 2 small children, she had filed a criminal complaint against her husband, reporting severe abuse. On the day she disappeared, Audrey went out to collect her payment and was never seen again. Katerina Detzel, a patient with mental disorders, appears with the figure of a man made of straw in her bed in 1910. Katerina's creation became one of the most macabre images of the time. Admiral Yamamoto Isoroku in white attire, saluting, commander of the Imperial Japanese Navy Fleet, and primarily responsible for the attack on Pearl Harbor. A few hours later, his plane was intercepted and shot down by fighters in a planned ambush. George Metesky, known as the Mad Bomber, was responsible for planting over 30 bombs in New York between 1940 and 1956, injuring 15 people. Captured in 1957, he was declared mentally unfit and committed to a psychiatric hospital. The interior of an industrial farm at night with hundreds of chickens perched on shelves. The scene evokes a sense of claustrophobia and discomfort due to overcrowding and surrounding darkness. One of the rare survivors of the USS Indianapolis sunk in July 1945 after delivering components of the atomic bomb used in Hiroshima. About 1,000 sailors were left adrift at sea, facing fire, extreme thirst, and shark attacks. Only 316 survived the ordeal. In 1908, a boy known as a Trapper Boy was photographed inside a mine in West Virginia. Children were often employed in these dangerous roles, responsible for controlling ventilation doors in extremely risky conditions. Coffins arranged in a funeral ceremony for the victims of John Wayne Gacy. The serial killer murdered 33 young men between 1972 and 1978, burying many of the bodies in the crawl space beneath his residence. The bus that became the final resting place of Christopher McCandless was found in 1992 after he lived in isolation in the Alaskan wilderness. His body was discovered by a hunter. Kevin Carter, an experienced photographer, approached slowly to avoid scaring the bird and took a series of photos from about 33 feet away, then shooed the vulture. 3 months after winning the Pulitzer Prize for this horrifying photograph, Kevin Carter gave up his career. It was later revealed that the horrifying photo was of a boy named Kong Nyong, who was being cared for at a United Nations food aid station. Large lines created by the ancient culture of Peru can be observed in the Nazca Desert. These lines, often in geometric shapes and representations of animals and plants, form one of the most intriguing mysteries of South American archaeology. An ancient device found in a shipwreck near the island of Antikythera, Greece, in 1901, revealed itself as one of the most surprising archaeological discoveries. Known as the Antikythera mechanism, the artifact was used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses with impressive accuracy for its time. The house of H. H. Holmes, located on the outskirts of Chicago, Illinois, was known as the Murder Castle, and was where Holmes, whose real name was Herman Webster Mudgett, committed a series of chillingly calculated murders. Holmes built this house with multiple floors and numerous rooms, which later turned out to be deadly traps. The building included gas chambers, secret doors, and a maze of dead-end corridors designed to both confuse and capture his victims. Edmund Kemper laughs while the detective tries to unlock his handcuffs near a California courthouse in 1973. Known for killing students as well as his own mother and grandparents, he confessed to 10 murders and requested the death penalty, but received life imprisonment as capital punishment was suspended at the time. In 1964, Frenchman Robert Lark took a photograph during a family vacation on the Great Barrier Reef. He claims the image captured a sea monster. Lark and his family were on a boat exploring the region's marine life when they noticed strange movement in the water. Photo of the tents partially buried by snow in the Dyatlov Pass incident in Russia. in 1959. The group of students faced extreme conditions when, for unknown reasons, they abandoned the camp in a rush, barefoot and poorly dressed. In 1946, an earthquake in Alaska triggered a tsunami that caused massive destruction in Hilo, Hawaii. The enormous waves devastated structures and claimed the lives of more than 150 people. This disaster led to the creation of a tsunami warning system. This photo was taken in the Soviet Union around the year 1930 during a chemical attack preparedness exercise. Hundreds of children, all wearing gas masks, stare silently at the camera in the middle of a deserted road.